Hi everyone, we are live. This is Arsenal Fan Circle, Season 2, Episode 29. I've got two people in with me today and some more coming in as well. Stan the Man, thanks for joining us. Check out Stan on Twitter.
Hi everyone.
And the co-host, the most, Mahir from South Africa. How are you, Mahir? Gunded News.
Good on yourselves, guys.
Check Mahir out as well on YouTube. He's doing some videos, so check him out. And we just got Rohan here, so we'll add him into the podcast. Hey, Rohan. Welcome. We just got started. Welcome, Rohan. Okay, he's going to check out his earpiece. So, anything going on? Anything cracking? Any news you want to talk about before we get into the defenders, midfielders actually, and strikers, keeper Sal? Forever holding.
I'm glad that the club has announced now that everybody's on the same page with regard to a reduction in salaries. So it's I'm happy to see that there seems to be a unified front at Arsenal.
Good. Yeah, that's good news from the last couple of weeks. Rohan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
Hi, guys.
Welcome in. Thanks for joining us, Rohan.
Sure.
All right, so let's get into, if you saw the last podcast, we left off on goalkeepers and defenders. So we're going to start right there where we left off. So Arsenal midfielders and strikers, keep or sell. Let's start off with Torreira, where we can get a reasonable consensus and start the podcast in a good way. I would prefer to keep Lucas Torreira. He's had a good first season. He's had a difficult last part of the first season, and obviously under Unai Emery, I think he suffered a lot. Just talking about the player now, we're reminiscing back about the particular what do you call it, that he had with the coach, affinity with the coach, or relationship. That's the word I'm looking for, with the coach. And now I'm remembering all the keyhole stuff, Stan, that Unai Emery used to do with Lucas Torreira, to the point of where he almost wanted to leave the club. But under Arteta now, things are a little bit better with Torreira. Hasn't always got into the first team, but I think he's a player that we can keep. He's not one of our worst players, Stan.
No, not at all. I kind of feel that if we do bring in another midfielder, and we were talking just before the show started about Partey, I wouldn't want it to be a case of he comes in and Torreira goes. I'd still like to keep Torreira. I'd like him to have some competition. Sometimes we could play two in that position, and he would also be able to have some rest. Some rest during the season.
I can't remember the last time, Stan, we've had two defensive or holding midfielders as good as those two, possibly.
The last two I can remember at the same time was probably Gilberto and Vieira, right? That's the last time I remember us having two solid choices for that role. So I definitely would like to keep him.
Yeah, and it feels so much like we're talking about the past, like 15 years ago. We're reminiscing all the time. We want to make some new history here, right?
Yeah.
So, Mahir, what do you think about Torreira?
Definite keep. I would love for us to go and find him a proper partner. Shout out to our senior Wonga, and a lot of our other subscribers are going to be joining us or have joined us. So yeah, definite keep. I mean, I would love to just find him a proper partner. Somebody like a Decore or Ndidi. If you want to go higher up the top tiers, you can get somebody like Thomas Partey.
Yeah. Want to give a shout out to Arsenio Wonga. I think you're from New York, so stay safe, Arsenio. And also Glenn in the chats as well. So, you got any questions out there? Let us know. We were just talking about Lacazette being offered in a swap deal for Partey, and I think that's a real thing, right, Mahir?
Yeah, it's a very real thing. I mean, if you look at it that time, Lacazette would have joined Atletico Madrid if it had not been for a transfer ban.
Yep.
And if you're looking at it now, there's very big chance this could happen.
Yeah. So Rohan, take on the Lacazette Partey thing, and then just give us your views on Torreira as well.
Yeah, so if Lacazette goes and we get Partey, I think it's a win for us. Because the striking department, also considering if we can keep Aubameyang by any chance, we come to him. But that'll be a great deal for us. We don't really need two top strikers if we can't play the two top strikers
Yeah.
together, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not playing them together. We're sort of shoehorning them in the team, but it's not in the right position. Then we might as well get rid, and then we have other talent in that position. So that's where we go. And about Torreira, he is a specialist in that area, and that area is one place that any team requires. That fulcrum in midfield who controls the game, who breaks the attacks from the other side, and basically is starts our attacks because he gives it to our, let's say, our quarterback. So every team has that. You can look at City when Fernandinho isn't playing, and I think that's the major issue with City this season, that Fernandinho isn't playing and he's playing in center half, and City have just not been the same. And that was the same when in last season, the few games that Fernandinho was injured, Liverpool sort of caught up at that point. So he is that one player who has that skill set. We need to keep that player. We need to build around that player, and if we can add to another world class player for that position, which gives competition. Hopefully, our aim is to be in the Champions League, and there will be times when we go to an Allianz Arena, when we go to the Nou Camp, when we go to
Yeah.
Santiago Bernabeu, and there we'll need two defensive-minded players. So it wouldn't be a question of sell Torreira and buy Partey. I would like both of them.
Yeah, exactly. I think you had sent out a tweet about Adrian Clark, a video about Aubameyang, and he noted that the last transitional goal that Aubameyang had scored was away to Manchester United
Manchester United, yes.
quite a few games ago, and Herrera was the one player who did that for us in the team. He would break play up and send it going the other way when teams are not necessarily ready for that to happen to them. And so Herrera is a very, very important part of our team. Just before we go on, Stan, I'm going to come to you. Arsenio is asking, what is it with us being so incompetent with our transfer dealings and contracts being run down and leaving up to the last minute? He's fed up of it. How many players have we lost due to this? I would say we've lost quite a few players. You could probably make a five-a-side team, and that's being conservative, right, Stan?
Yeah, not only of the ones that we've got them free, there's ones that we've sold for what I would see would be not the true value of the player. We get tucked up like kippers sometimes in our transfer dealings, but we've been told, as we've been told many things by the higher ups at the club, that that's not going to happen anymore. That decisions will be made on players, and if they feel that players aren't going to sign contracts, they're going to move them on. So we'll see, because we do have a few players that are in that situation now. One way or the other, we're going to need to know if we're going to be moving forward with players like Aubameyang. We've got a young player in Saka who I heard that a contract being offered. I've not heard that anything's been signed yet. So let's see if these higher ups keep to their word and get on top of these things.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems that we always come to this situation where we have an outstanding player who's marketable, and it seems like we're at a standoff in terms of negotiations, getting it done or not. But Mahir, I'm going to come to you next on the next player, and on my list I have one Mesut Ozil. Keep or sell?
Na 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 na. Hey Mesut.
All right.
Goodbye.
Do you want to put any words to it, or is that enough for you?
No, please. Overrated, overrated, overrated.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Fanboys, get at me. They can at me on Twitter. They can at me at my channel. Do whatever you need to do, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Rohan, Mesut Ozil.
No,
He's been,
I don't think it's a question of us wanting to sell him, but us being able to sell him. I think
Yeah.
that's the question,
well,
right?
this
Like,
is it. In a perfect
I don't
world,
think,
in a perfect world, you have the power. You can do what you want, Rohan.
of course, then move him on. He's
Yeah,
350 grand a week and not even performing for, $350. See, I don't I don't doubt his pedigree. He's a talented player, and so many, top coaches and top players have spoken about his skill, his vision, etc. It can't be for Wayne, right? But he just doesn't fit into the Arsenal team. I had said that, if this was, he would fit wonderfully in a Chelsea team from yesteryear, which had a solid base, and he was the attacker there. He had to create. He didn't have to go back or do something like. But in our midfield, which is basically thinner than uh, you know uh, tissue paper, where attacks just
we're
start.
in a paper bag. Yeah,
Exactly, like and their Mesut Ozil just doesn't fit. So if you have the opportunity, you sell. But I don't think it's a question of us wanting to sell, but it's finding a suitor and him wanting to leave. Like I said, the option is to, take most of his wages, but to send him out where somebody else pays part of his wages.
yeah. And I agree. Our Mesut Ozil has seen his best. We've seen his best days, and he's on the downturn, and he does need a team set up solely. He needs a team pretty much built around him. And I've heard lots of people saying, why would Real Madrid let a player like that go? And they usually don't let a lot of players go in their prime, other than Ronaldo, who really, really wanted to leave. So that's Mesut Ozil. The next one on the
Sorry,
list. Go ahead.
do you guys know that we've spent over 150 million on Mesut Ozil so far?
Yes,
That's
Just
believable, yeah.
I knew it was a
he's
lot
not
of money.
150
So
more,
hold on a
man.
minute, right? What's the deal here? You're going to move on to the next guy without letting me have my little say about Ozil.
No.
Yeah,
Don't
That's
forget.
not, that's not going to fly.
you're right, Chad. I kind of did it on purpose when I went to my hair first, and I saw your grin. But then I thought, honestly, yeah, we did come to the end of it. You go.
Well, look, anybody that's ever tuned in and listened to me talk about Arsenal in the past probably already knows how I feel about Mesut Ozil. So I'm just going to sum it up like this, right? He's being paid a salary that we could be paying 4 other players. We're not getting the end product from him. So that needs to be addressed, and that can't be sustained.
Yeah, agree with that. All of that. All right, Stan. Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
Yeah, I'd move him on as well. I just I don't see it with him personally. He had that little spell under Arteta, where everyone's going, oh, he's an inverted fullback, and I wasn't quite sure exactly what that meant. That was a new one to me, and he was getting a lot of reviews. But
Dr. Bellerin started that trend.
he looks a little. I don't know what it is about him. He's just a player that he doesn't appeal to me. His body language. I don't know what it is, for a young guy that's been given the opportunity to play in the first team, who's come up through the academy. If you look at his attitude to playing out of position, and then you look across to the left back position at Saka's attitude, it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Two different.
He really, to me, Xhaka looks like that he's grabbing the opportunity. It might not be the position that he wants to play in, but he's kind of thinking, well, look, I'm in the first team here, and if I can make myself valuable into the first team, at some point, I'll earn my way into my natural position and get a chance to show what I can do there. Until then, I'll work hard as a fullback. Whereas Ainsley Maitland-Niles kind of looks like he's, he had a few interviews where he had to make the point of saying that he wasn't happy playing in that position.
Yeah.
And I got a feeling that with Mikel Arteta, a lot of people have wondered why he's been frozen out. I've got a feeling that maybe it's an immaturity thing with him. And this is only my opinion, and I'm guessing. But I think, wasn't he the one that he got into a fight with Matteo Guendouzi when they were in Dubai, I believe, which is the reason that Guendouzi was out of the squad for a while. So it takes two people to have a fight. I might be wrong. Maybe someone in the chat will correct me, but I understand it that there was a bit of a fight and they didn't quite like Ainsley Maitland's attitude around the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. So Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Guendouzi had a bit of a set too.
I think so, if I'm hearing it right, and that's the reason as well why Guendouzi was kind of out of favour for a short while.
Yeah, he definitely was out of favour for a couple of weeks. Of course, this badge for younger players, it can mean different things. Sometimes the badge or the shirt can be too much for the personality, and other times, like in Saka and Martinelli, they're just playing free. And I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles has struggled with confidence. You hear a lot of the time, Stan, that players need to have that confidence of the coach behind them and feel like they're part of the setup. So, for whatever reason, Ainsley Maitland-Niles has struggled with that. Mahir, Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
I'm 100% agreeing with Stan.
Right.
The attitude is very important. You play for the badge. You play for the badge, and people remember the name on the back.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever gonna reach. I don't think he's ever gonna reach a level where he's going to become a valuable member of.
Yeah, and
squad.
we've never really figured out what his true position is going to be, whether it be fullback, midfield, right wing. Rohan,
would die, Ray. We would die for a place on the pitch to be playing for Arsenal.
yeah,
That's the way your attitude should be, whether or not you're in your right position. Like Stan just said, Saka's playing his heart out. Martinelli is doing the same, but like Saka, they'll eventually see how hard he works, and they'll give him an opportunity to play on the wing. Mark my words.
yeah. Of course, we never know with younger players, Rohan. Some of them think that things come so easily to them, and that could be
Don't take it for
Maitland-Niles.
granted.
Yeah, you're right. So now, since you've given us all the power, unlimited power to in terms of money, which is
Yeah, and
just
so
as unimaginable
yeah,
as us having the power to change somebody's mind. So if we had if I had the power to change Maitland Niles' mind, then I would sort of keep him. The reason why I would keep him is because he's a utility player. When he's been put at right back, he's done an okay job. At midfield, I remember he's been put there a couple of times and he's had disastrous, sideway passes where there's been turnovers. But there's a player in there, and he could probably be. He will never be an Arsenal great. He will not be my first team choice. But the Carabao Cup, the odd Europa League game if we're in the Europa League. As a cover for Hector Bellerin, if we don't get a good, right back, I think he's a utility player. I think it's his own downfall that he thinks that he's good enough to play for Arsenal midfield. Because if he was good enough, then he would have been playing there anyway. But he never gets a shout in there. I am not sure about this comparison with Saka. Of course, they are both young players, but Maitland-Niles has been in and around the team for a bit longer than Saka. So and he's seen more first team action than Saka, and that's why probably he's felt that that now I deserve this right to have this opinion that I don't want to play here. But Arsenal is a big enough institution to knock sense into him, and if we can't knock sense into him, then we should just sell him. That's my idea. But if I could change his mind, I think as a utility player, I'd keep him.
yeah. I think you're right, Rohan. He's had something like 100 Arsenal games plus, and he probably feels that he's in a position, although he hasn't locked that place down. I think Stan is looking like he may want to say something in a second.
No, I was just chuckling to myself because I was just thinking, if I was his manager and he was moaning about playing at the right back, I'd stick him in goal for the next game just to wipe
Yeah,
him
for
out.
real. Yeah,
Just to show him who's boss.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's good they're talking in the chat here, and Carl said, Arsenio, we've been doing business like this for years and years. Sick of it. I hope we do. I think we're all tired of it at this point. We need to have a paradigm change, a shift, and hopefully Arteta, he's 14 games into his reign now, and hopefully whenever the summer break does come, and that's up for discussion as well, that things will become a little bit more ruthless, and we're trying to be ruthless here on this podcast, talking about midfielders, and the criteria is we're not greedy. We just want to be a top four contender, and we want to have a squad that's going to be capable of achieving top four. And yes, Ainsley Maitland-Niles could be a squad player in the periphery of the team for that situation. So the next player I have on my list is Matteo. Stan, you want to start off with Matteo?
I'd like him to go out on loan in the Championship.
Yeah, he's a type of player that splits opinion. We're definitely probably going to go 2-2 on the vote here for Guendouzi, I feel. He would like to send him out, though.
I like him, but I think if he went down into the Championship, into a team where he was playing every week and he was being played in a certain position, the same, I mean, asked to do the same role, I think that he would get a lot of benefit from that.
Right, yeah. And of course, we've given Rohan the power, but maybe not to change people's minds, but the absolute power to move players in and out. That's the criteria I set to the panel. Tony, who should be joining us pretty soon, Tony Turner will write the checks for any amount of money, as we know. But yeah, Guendouzi, Stan, you would send him out on loan.
Yeah.
All right, so you wouldn't really sell him, or you wouldn't keep him. It's pretty much ship him off somewhere for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I always felt that when he came into the team, that he was given too much game time, and I kind of felt that by the end of it, it kind of started to look a little burnt out to me. You know, if we weren't going to send him out in London this first season, we should have used him a little bit more sparingly, and got him to, you know, watch a lot from the bench and learn, you know, the Arsenal way as well by watching, rather than just sticking him out there all the time. Because I noticed with Guendouzi that he would play games in halves. One game he'd have a terrible first half, and I'd be thinking, like, surely they got to take him off. And in the second half, he'd come out and be all right, or vice versa. You know, I very rarely ever see him put in a good 90 minutes. So for me, out on loan in a Championship, let him learn his trade against some big men, cement a position down, and I think he'd probably benefit a lot from that.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to be the last person always to give a vote, so I'll go next. I think there's a player there. I think there's a lot of players that we can ship out way before Guendouzi, and maybe he's not going to start every game for me. I think what Stan has said has got some real validity to it, because he was pretty much Unai Emery's favourite in every team sheet. He started the first game against the champions, Manchester City. I think there's a player there, but I think you're right, Stan. We need to coax something out of him. Hi, Tony. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys.
So we're 4 players in. We're talking about Matteo Guendouzi. Keep or sell?
Keep him. I think he is one of the brightest players to start off the season. I think all the team chaos and everything's unsettled him a little bit.
Yeah, so we got 3 votes for Guendouzi, Rohan.
I think that we should send him out on loan. That's the right thing to do, because I like his aggression if it's used in a positive way. I think that he thinks that he's already made it. He thinks that he's, Roy Keane or Vieira already. He wants to get involved in every fight that happens on the pitch that is not required. Sometimes he can be stupid and erratic, but that can be channeled in a positive manner, because that's what we've been crying out for, right? Character in the team. And he has that sort of character, but what he needs before that is the skill set to back up that character. And that's where I'm not 100% sure what sort of a player Guendouzi is, right? The games that I remember that he's played well, he's driven the team, but he's driven the team because of his character, but not because of his special skill that he has. I don't think he's a specialist defensive midfielder. Neither is he the quarterback who will, sort of rain passes across the pitch. Neither is he a number 8 who's going to drive in late into the box and score goals. What is his position, So if he figures that out, I think he's a good character to have, but I don't think he's Arsenal first team material just yet.
Right. And Arsenio said Mateo has potential, but he needs to stay humble or he's going to go down the wrong road. Getting ahead of himself and watch up his career.
See, that's one of the things I always feel about young players that come through the academy and have only known Arsenal, or a young player like Matteo Guendouzi who gets taken to Arsenal. You don't want them to think, oh, well, I've cracked it, I'm at Arsenal, because the facilities at Arsenal are second to none. And when you send a young player out on loan to a league lower down, not only are they learning their game, but they're also seeing the facilities at the other place. And what you're saying to them is like, if you don't work hard, you see what you've got here at Arsenal, you don't have that anymore. You'll be playing at Charlton. You'll be playing at Millwall. That's where you're going to be with those kind of facilities. So, you want these young players to try and learn about having value and knowing that, wow, we've got everything laid on for us at Arsenal and I need to work hard. Otherwise, the underfloor heating that we have in the changing rooms, they ain't got that at Charlton.
Shout out to Tony in the chat as well. The dude wants to do it. He's just trying to catch up with his lunch. So give him a break here. Cut him a break. He's our treasurer. He's our club treasurer in the new
Mr. Monopoly.
New paradigm, Mr. Monopoly. So my here, Guendouzi, for you to round out Guendouzi.
Look, young talent, but I think he was being used too much, not being used sparingly enough.
Yeah.
And he should go out on loan, as Stan and Ron have said, because it's better that way. You get experience, and I mean, playing week in, week out, you actually, during your erraticness or your stupidity of just passing a ball wherever or just deciding to go for every challenge instead of positioning yourself, figuring out what to do exactly, your proper job. I think with experience, things like his rashness and his being rash in tackles, making stupid decisions will be cut out because he'll be playing with the big boys week in, week out.
We've seen what
exact role.
I'm going to open this up to the panel. Just stay on Guendouzi a little bit because I think we're going to be able to get through the rest of the midfield pretty easily. We've seen this with young players. I'm going to open this up to anyone on the panel. We've seen this with young players over the years when they're young. Wayne Rooney, petulance. Various other players had a lot of difficulty with discipline, and they finally come good in the end. Do we need to maybe, send them out on loan and give them some time?
Yeah. But in saying that, I mean, he's already had 100 senior games for that's including Arsenal and the team that we got him from. 100 senior games, and I remember looking at his stats, and his stats were something like, it was like 50 for the previous team, and he's already clocked up 50 for Arsenal. And in that time, his stats are something like 1 goal and 2 assists.
0 goals, right?
Yeah. And what that goal was for us, the stats are bad. So I kind of agree with Rohan when I've always thought to myself, well, what is his actual job? Because as Rohan says, he's not a destroyer. He's not a DM destroyer. He's not like Torreira. That's not really his game. He's not really a Ramsey and arriving late in the box and trying to and having shots. He's not doing that. He's not a 10. So this is why I think he should go out on loan and try and understand what his position is, because you see what happens when we've got players that we don't know what their position is. we're not sure about it yet, you know. And this is what's happening with Ainsley Maitland-Niles a little bit.
Yeah.
It happened a little bit with Oxlade-Chamberlain. We don't know really what to do with these players, and then they end up going somewhere else and settling in somewhere else and doing quite all right.
Doing quite all right.
Jefferson Adelaide is another one that comes to mind. He's doing all right where he's gone to. But we didn't really know what to do with the Jeff. We didn't really know where we were going to play him.
Rohan, you wanted to have your say on that?
No, same thing. Like, I just wanted to understand if anybody sees what specialist quality does he have? Because I haven't been able to see it in almost 2 seasons now. You know, I'm unsure of what his quality really is. And, you know, once you know the quality, can you build around that, right? Like, if you don't know what the quality is, then you can't really do anything. Apart from his drive that we know that he has, you know, I'm really not sure. So, you know, we have to, you know, the first task is for us to figure that out.
Yeah. I still remember the worst of Guendouzi was losing the ball last season on the edge of his own county area, and then being tested this season at the highest level when Arteta and Manchester City came to the Emirates, and he was shockingly out of position for the 3rd goal. Now, the whole team didn't play very well in that game, but that's the standard you're going to be judged at. Good things for me with Guendouzi is the shithousery, and I think he can learn some things as well. But if you're asking me who's the most uncoached player since Arteta came, I would put Guendouzi pretty high on that because we still have the same Guendouzi, you know?
I think to answer Rohan's question, he asked, you know, what is his qualities? What is it that people see in him? Because he does have a lot of fans out there that really love Guendouzi. You know, I see a lot of people have got Guendouzi accounts, parody accounts, you know, Guendouzi the GOAT accounts and stuff like that. And I think what people like about him is that he runs his socks off. He's always running, so he's always moving around. He runs his socks off. And if there is any kind of altercation between a player and the opposition, he's one of the first in there. If there's any kind of like scraps going on, you know, any like little mini fights, he's the first in there. But is that enough?
He'll get any fit roadside, you know, bully, and you put it in there, they'll probably do the same job, right? That's not what most of the people who are in the crowd, if they were fit enough, would do the same thing. You know, that's not you have to have something about you. Otherwise you can, you know, it doesn't really work.
It's like, that's
the issue.
Have you ever seen footage of where there's a football match? It might be being played in a park or school or somewhere, or non-league, and then a little sort of fluffy dog comes running onto the pitch, and it stops the game, and it's constantly trying to run after the ball. That's what he kind of reminds me of. He reminds me of a little dog that's just run onto the pitch, and chasing the ball around everywhere.
Yeah. Some great chat going on in the comment section about Dan Gotti and Stan Kroenke. Obviously, hopefully, money talks in this game. I wonder. Every owner will have a price at which they will sell. I wonder if Dan Gotti is the person, and if the dollar amount will be enough. You know, we've all seen recently Newcastle have been bought out by a sheikh, right? Am I here?
Yeah. I think it's a 300 or 200 million buyout.
260, yeah, but I think he's worth 260 billion. Whereas Dan Kroenke
where I'm getting M from when it's supposed to be the B.
The country of Dubai is worth 26 billion, and Stan Kroenke's at 7 billion. Right, Stan?
The funniest thing that I've seen about the Newcastle takeover, it was a tweet, and it was like it was a picture of Kylian Mbappe in a Newcastle top, and at the top it just said transfer window 2022, and in speech marks it said, ever since I was a young kid, I've always dreamt of playing for Newcastle United.
Right. Yeah. Just like a new signing, right? Listen, I hope that there is an owner out there that's willing to outbid Stan and tempt Stan to cash in, because actually this coronavirus situation, is going to impact his new shiny stadium in LA as well. Right, Tony?
Yeah, he's got 2 NFL teams. Not sure when they'll start the NFL season, and Olympics coming up, and all kinds of different things going on there.
Well, when economies get into difficulty, Rohan, that's when you have to sell some assets, right?
Yeah, but I don't understand what sort of business brain this person has. To me, it's not very prudent to buy Arsenal, which is such a big brand, and then to diminish its value. You know,
Yeah.
just look at
We're using the
someone like
same old
Liverpool.
machinery.
Liverpool has gone up in its value 3 or 4 times since they have. That's an investment, right? You make an investment to make more money out of it, and to make more money, you've got to keep that brand going. But Arsenal as a brand is failing, and that is detrimental to the owners. And I don't understand why he would not invest. If Arsenal is there and thereabouts, winning something, competing, the value goes up, and eventually, I assume that's the end game, that he does sell it sometime, because he's not an Arsenal fan. He's going to sell it on a massive profit, but
Yeah.
he's not doing that. The value is falling.
I hope you're right, but I haven't seen any part of that. They're talking about being custodians and handing it down generation to generation. But
Huh.
every businessman has the price at which they will be tempted to sell. You know?
Yeah, right. And now there's going to be this conversation about, I don't know if there's already been that buyout by MBS, but if there has, then good for Newcastle. There's obviously going to be this whole conversation around how he has made that sort of money, and he's politically not very well loved or well received throughout the world. So there's going to be that conversation that will be happening. But to everyone who makes that comment, just from a footballing front, if this was your club, a Burnley fan, or a West Ham fan, etc., would you not rather have someone like that take over and sign Mbappe and sign Jordan Sancho and win 4-3 over Manchester City to actually go and win the title, something like that?
I'm a Newcastle fan right now. I'm pretty happy that we're going to win the Premier League within 3 years, maybe.
Exactly. For everyone else, it's just sour grapes, right? Who wouldn't want, if honestly speaking, who wouldn't want Man City sort of money, or Chelsea sort of money that they got? Like, everybody is, we all like the sustainable model, but if that brought you success, and for a club, especially for a club that doesn't see that much success, someone in the mid-tier yo-yo club, maybe they'd love to be there.
Stan will remember it all happened with Blackburn Rovers as well, quite a few years ago.
Yeah, what was his name? Jack Walker.
Jack Walker, Sutton and Shearer came.
No, I'm interested to know if anyone else thinks otherwise, because of course there is a principle-based argument that no, you have to do it the right way, and Arsenal has done it the right way for a long time. But if that came to our club, would we not welcome it?
No, of course we'll welcome it. And I was just going to poke fun at Tim Sherwood. He actually won a Premier League medal on the back of Shearer and Sutton and all that money, right? Tim Sherwood.
Just circling back though to what we were saying about Stan Kroenke. I mean, he's going to be putting millions in. We don't know what that means, right? But he's got 2 stadiums that are under construction in the United States. And I was just reading this week that at the moment those stadiums are now $2 billion over budget.
Yeah.
So we know he's a millionaire and stuff, but I mean, the man's $2 million over budget. I mean, I get pissed off on a $5, let alone, So I don't know how that's going to impact him going forward. Whether something like that would be a catalyst for him to maybe think about selling.
Absolutely. That's why I came into this topic.
Or maybe he can't. if he's using Arsenal as leverage in loans from banks, which means he probably couldn't sell. So,
yeah. At some point, if it keeps going, Stan, and they're going to lose money there, he may have to think about cutting his losses in London.
I mean, if he's already 2 billion, over budget, I would imagine that the current pandemic has probably not helped the situation, right? But in saying that, what I have noticed here in Canada, that even though we are in lockdown, construction sites are still working. So maybe they are still working on the stadiums.
Yeah. And that's how we get from Guendouzi to this topic. Only an Arsenal fan circle, right, Rohan?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Rohan, Granit Xhaka, the next player on the list.
I would keep. I think that he has a skill set that we know about. He has negatives that we know about, which is him being slow. But he does have the pass on him. If he is given time on the ball, he's got a wonderful left foot. He is also a leader on the pitch.
Mahir,
He
look
is also
down at your right knee, Mahir. Look down at your right knee.
He's also a leader. In my opinion, although Aubameyang has the armband, but Xhaka is a leader within the team. And I'm not saying that he is the guy who will make us compete for the title. No, he won't. But to get into the top four, I think he'll be all right. And the fact that there have been 4 managers now, and all 4 managers have preferred to keep him, means that there is something about him.
There is something about you, Mahir.
I think maybe all 4 managers have been smoking something very highly illegal that have altered their brain waves. Ron, I respect all of, we are family. I respect everybody's opinion. But to be honest with you, if you don't know what Xhaka's role in today's team till today, you don't know what his role is. Is he a box-to-box? Is he a defensive mid? Is he a defensive? Is he a destroyer? Is he? I would personally, I'd move him on and get in somebody that's gonna take us to a new level. Thomas Partey, Decore, Ndidi, anybody but Granit. Yeah.
The car is still ready to go, Mahir. You'll drive him to the airport, right?
You guys have seen pictures of me in the bus with Granit Xhaka next to me on a map on our way, and then Rohan kind of phoned me and said, "Can you make a U-turn? We need to use him in the squad." So I was like, "Okay, Rohan, I'm gonna trust you a little bit." So I just dropped him by Rohan's place, and then yeah.
Granit Xhaka's done.
Well, for me, I mean, even before he spat his dummy out, right, and told everyone to feck off when he got substituted, yeah, I wasn't a fan of him. But before that, personally, yeah, so even before that happened, and that was just purely on, I thought that we could do better, a better player. We could upgrade and get a better player. And then when he got substituted off and done that, I actually thought the club acted poorly in the way that they disciplined him. I don't care if he's sorry and if all the other players like him. This is an Arsenal Football Club, and you need to send a message out so that even for the future, when you're looking at bringing players in, players that are coming in will remember that and say, yeah, I can't mess about here because they don't tolerate that kind of stuff here. And I know that it was bad that he got a lot of grief on Instagram, but for me, that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue. People shouldn't be doing that, and that's nothing to do with me. Purely as a footballer and his attitude towards the fans when he was substituted, I think I'd love to see him gone as quickly as possible. We could do better. We can upgrade and get a better player. He's not that good it's not like he's a world-class player, anything, it's not like he's Suarez. You know what I mean? Oh, he's bit someone, but we're still going to keep him because he bangs in loads of goals. We could do better.
Dennis Suarez.
Luis Suarez.
Sorry, thank you there, Stan. Yeah, I was vibed when we were when we bought him. I thought he was a much better player than has transpired. Granit Xhaka is slow. The Premiership is too fast for him. He's a good passer of the ball, but again, you kind of need players around him. You need a midfield to accept his unique set of skills, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And, I would sell Granit Xhaka. We can do better than Granit Xhaka.
And one other point as well, Rohan said that he's a leader. I don't actually think he is. For me, when things are going really well, he's a good leader. But when things aren't going so well, he folds. I remember that interview where he said he's standing there talking in the microphone, trying to say that him and his teammates were scared. You would not hear Tony Adams saying that in an interview.
Yeah,
You wouldn't hear Patrick Vieira saying that they were scared. You know, and then when he got his attitude when he got substituted was all about him being substituted. Right? He didn't like that.
I can see where
he wanted to walk off the pitch in a petulant manner.
Yeah.
It's poor leadership.
Go, Rohan.
No, so I agree. He's not a leader in the mold of Vieira or Adams. You know, that's they don't come about so so frequently. But within this team of weaklings, he's a relative. Relative to that, I feel that he's a leader. You know, in our team of if we had to pick out three people and change three positions. He was my second position to be changed. You know, I had said that, I'd like a Sandy sort of a player who can play in that position and play with both feet because he's too slow, etc., etc. But I'm just keeping in mind the reality of the team and where we are at and whether we have worse players or better players than him. And I think that we have worse players than him. That is the reason why I would say that. And also, I think that this point about like how he behaved was inexcusable, right? Like let's get that right. But that stemmed also from the fact that he was booed when he was being taken off, and this was repetitive, action by the fans also who had just sort of made him the scapegoat. And I remember I'd called him the midfield Mustafi one time. And so from there, I was also part of that. And so there's a lot of factors going into it. You are a professional and you are a public figure. You cannot act like that. But it wasn't out of context. It wasn't like everybody was applauding them and then he was like, buzz off, I don't need the applause. He was being booed and sort of being bullied. And in that situation, he reacted badly.
No, I think that's wrong. Actually, what happened was that the number went up for him to come off. Yeah, and at that point, there wasn't actually any. At that point, there wasn't any booing. It was when he started walking off slowly. That's when the booing started, and then he cupped his ear. He cupped his ear, and then he egged it on. Yeah,
which is the same thing that Ozil did when. Which is the same thing that Ozil did when we were losing in the Europa League final. And how many times have we seen him just walk off like that? But the fans don't react in that way, right? I'm just saying that there is context. I'm not justifying it or condoning it in any way.
The fans don't react because they're used to seeing him moving around slowly. We're used to that.
A lot of fans.
Xhaka is not the fastest rabbit in the world himself.
But I think what happened was that when the number went up, there was because I remember watching it in the pub, and what happened was that when the number went up, there wasn't a boo. It was more of a hey, and it was more at Unai Emery. It was more at Emery as that it was kind of like at last he's doing something. Yeah. So it wasn't Xhaka. It was when he started to move off the pitch slowly, he started to get booed. The worst thing he done was the old Hulk Hogan. When he started doing the old Hulk Hogan, that was it, mate. That was all over.
Yeah. And look, similarly, what happened in the Europa League final when Ozil came off, it was only on the 78th minute when he could have come off easily many minutes before that 78 minutes. Ozil lost a lot of Arsenal fans at that point in time. There was a lot of pro Ozil up until that point, but he lost a lot of people. And yes, the fans were annoyed with Granit Xhaka for a very long time. And finally, maybe you're right as well, Stan. They were annoyed at Emery because Xhaka kept finding his way onto the team sheet through Emery, and Xhaka was the one who heard about it on the pitch. And yeah, they were happy that he was coming off. Finally, Emery was doing something that the fans wanted him to do. And when he didn't move fast enough at the time, what was it, a 2-2 draw still in the last few minutes? And
Yeah.
he didn't come off the pitch fast enough. And yeah, that's not acceptable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Xhaka, bye bye. And then we have to go to Tony.
Sell, 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 sell.
That's what I like about you, Tony. To the point. Sell, 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 sell. You're counting the money.
Yeah, where's Hertha Berlin with that 40 million they offered?
Yeah. Shout out to everyone in the chat. So really, really good reactions here to midfielders and Mobe Gooners in the house. Big up
Mobe.
to you guys. And you probably missed the section that you didn't want to see. Okay. Where is your Ozil top? Well, you'd have to skip back a few minutes, Mobe, to get Stan's reaction to Ozil.
Yeah, you just missed that Ozil bit, Mobe.
And yeah, it's a little bit of a pity we didn't get Usmanov in, but we have Stan Kroenke, that is. Okay, we're going to move swiftly on. Willock, Tony, Joe Willock, keep or sell?
Keep him.
Keep him. And Rohan?
Send him out on loan. He's got a few turns in him. He's all right, but again, not matured enough for Arsenal first team. Send him out on loan.
He needs his confidence built a little bit. I feel like the club is a little bit too big for him. The stage is a little bit too big for him. There's definitely a talent there. Not here.
Send him on loan.
Send him on loan. And Stan?
Yeah, I'd send him on loan.
Okay. So I'm moving a little bit quicker because we have another section to get to. And we're 50 minutes in already. Danny Ceballos, Stan.
I think he's going anyway, right? And for me, I don't really have an opinion on him because I don't feel that I've seen enough of him. There was that one game at Burnley that always gets brought up, but right now I wouldn't spend 40 to 50 million on him. So he goes back to Madrid for me.
Send him back. Am I here?
Yeah, if there was a deal in place for about 20, maybe I would actually maybe think of it, maybe keeping Ceballos. But like Stan said, we don't know enough about him, so yeah, unfortunately, goes back to Real Madrid.
Yeah, I would probably send them back too. Rohan, Ceballos.
Yeah, if the only two options are either buy or send him back, then send him back. Considering that a good part of the season has not been played, if there was an option to increase his to extend his loan, I'd be okay in doing that. But if we have to buy him for 30-40 million, then we have other positions to fill, so we send him back.
And Danny Ceballos.
I don't think we've seen enough of him, but if we could get him for the low 30s, I'd go ahead and keep him.
Okay. Let's keep going with you, Tony. Reece Nelson.
I think he needs to go out on loan.
Send them out on loan. Rohan, Reece Nelson.
I think we need to keep him. He already went to Hoffenheim, I think, last season, and he played really well. For some reason, it's been frustrating to watch him in an Arsenal shirt. He seems to lack confidence. Whenever he's coming in front of goal, he doesn't seem to have his shooting boots on. So that needs to get fixed. And it has to get fixed here because he's already had that loan run. And he's done well in that loan run. So either it works out for him at Arsenal or it doesn't. I think that's where we are at now. I think he is still, he should be a deputy to Pepe on that right side. That's his position that he plays. I'd keep him. And if it doesn't work out in a couple of years, then we sell him.
Yeah, I'm just shaking my head because we've had such a messy kind of season. with coaches, this and that. But
Correct.
yeah, Reece Nelson, I would keep him. Stan?
Well, what is it? About 30 odd first team appearances now and 1 goal. It's not for a winger. For a winger, it's not really good numbers.
Mhm.
I'm really torn. I'm kind of torn with it.
What we're discussing, Stan, is a lot of veterans that are maybe getting to the end of their careers, and then we have a lot of young players that we're thinking about their potential as well. So it's a tough one.
See, I'm quite torn with him though, because it seems to me that the way that he plays on the right, it's very different to the way that Pepe plays on the right, and the way that Reece Nelson does it is the way that I think Arteta wants that position to be played, because Reece Nelson can take the ball on the outside of the player, he can work it up the pitch and he can cross in, whereas Pepe, his only option is to come in on that left foot.
Yeah.
So maybe we keep him.
Okay. And Mahir?
Keep him. I think we're going to be short of midfield options. So, yeah, rather have just a little bit of solidity, however little it may be.
But then can I just add, because someone put a poll up this morning about, if Aubameyang was either going to go to Madrid or Barca, who would you prefer, Dembele or Jovic? And I was thinking about that poll and thinking, well, as much as I like Dembele, we're kind of covered in his positions on either flank. But if it was a case of getting rid of, say, Nelson, and we brought in Dembele, then we would have a good competition on that right-hand side with Pepe and Dembele. I'd have some of that.
By Dembele, do you mean Ousmane Dembele? He was such a player. Barcelona has killed him, but I used to love him at Dortmund. What a player he was! Both-footed, that too.
Yeah, I mean, that will be a tricky situation because we're already playing the Lacazette Aubameyang game with two very, very decent strikers in name, at least. And then we would do the same thing between Dembele and Pepe. It'd be very difficult balancing act for Arteta, I believe.
You could just let those two fight it out, right? There'd be a good competition for the right-hand side, but Dembele can play on the left as well. Right. My only fear is that it would impede the progress of maybe a Martinelli or a Saka. So there'd have to be a lot of rotation. Yeah. If it did mean getting rid of maybe a Reece Nelson for a Dembele, it would be hard to say no, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, with Reece Nelson, yeah.
Yeah, that's not even a comparison, right? If we were fighting for the Champions League regularly in the semi-finals, quarterfinals, then I would say that yes, that sort of competition is what we want. That is where we want to be. In terms of having a Pepe and Ousmane Dembele as our two options there, one better than the other. It would be devastating, And but I don't think that position is where we are at, and given that Reece Nelson is this, but there's no comparison between him and Dembele.
So I'm going to change my mind then and say that I'd get rid of Nelson, because that little conversation has just shown me that we can do better in that position. So I'm going to say he does.
Yeah. Listen, we got a few other stickler points to get through here, but Nicolas Pepe, you would keep him or sell him?
I'd keep him. We've only had him for one season, right? It's really hard to judge him. We've invested a lot of money in this guy. I'd keep him for another season and see.
Did you see the video? Ian Wright, Aubameyang, and Lacazette, and they mentioned that Pepe is the most skillful player that's in the squad.
I didn't see that bit, but I saw you guys talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah. They said Pepe has all the moves, and I sometimes feel if he just stops trying to beat himself, he could be a world beater. Because he tries to check in and out too much. Just be a more direct player.
Too much showboating is the problem. That's the problem with it. Yeah, exactly. It's too much. let me do a step over here, let me do a back. Instead of just focusing on the basics and like when you need to take a shot and there's an opportunity to take a shot, bro, you'll rather score a goal.
Also in that Adrian Clark YouTube video, they did point out that Aubameyang and Pepe are combining a lot now for goals and assists. So he's turned out to be a very, very valuable part of the team, even though we haven't seen that really on the pitch, you know.
If the name of the game was keeping hold of the ball for as long as you can, then Nicolas Pepe would be world class.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right in what you're saying, Stan. But I also think next season he's going to probably get those things out of his game and be a more direct player, and he needs to be a more direct player. Rohan?
Yeah. So before the emergence of Martinelli and Saka, we were crying out for wingers, and we didn't have any wingers. And I think he's a modern day winger who cuts in rather than plays from the outside and whips and crosses. And I think that's because now we don't have traditional target men who are going to go in and score goals with headers. So that sort of position is less and less available now. If I were the coach, what I would do is, of course, like you guys said, get the ball out of your feet as soon as possible. He's got that close control. If I was the coach, then I would basically make him, cut inside and take that shot from outside the box 10,000 times till he can do it with his eyes shut, and then, see whether he can be the Robin or, that sort of player for us who scores those goals, because he's got that close control that people can't tackle him. If he's got that skill, that is the place to use it, right? People can't tackle you at the edge of the box. And if you've perfected that, the Salas and the Robins of the world they use the same trick, but it's so effective, right? You don't need to know 10,000 tricks when you know one trick, which is, you've practiced it that well, right?
You can do it with eyes closed.
You need to be a little bit more direct. Mobe Gunner said we need to do everything to keep Aubameyang. I think we'll talk about him in a second. And we've already mentioned Torreira, a player we all, I think, unanimously said we want to keep here. And correctly, Mobe says we need to focus more on our midfield and defense rather than wingers. And a right back is a top priority. And we've talked about right backs for the last month, probably. And Max Aaron being one of them, And on the last podcast, we said, I think most of us said we wanted to maybe Hector Bellerin either needed competition or he needed to be sold. Tony, Nicola Pepe.
I'd keep him for 6 more months and see if he fits into our team. He doesn't seem like he's a fit right now.
Yeah, and I think Arteta has to augment the midfield and make some things work there. I think there's a little bit more than fine-tuning needed in midfield to help the wingers and forwards going forward. Tony, we're going to stay with the left wing with Martinelli. Tony.
Keep.
Yeah, Rohan.
Definite keep. He has, like I've said before, he has done what we expected Pepe to do. And so, we have to sort of see him as a future star and keep him, tie him up.
Do you think Rohan Martinelli has excelled Pepe, or they've kind of done about the same this season? Has he exceeded Pepe and stuff?
Yeah, it's all in context, right? He's played lesser minutes, I would assume. He has definitely come for a lot lesser money. There was no hype, so anything that he does is also taken into consideration and is looked at from that lens. So given that, he has definitely exceeded expectations. When you come at a 72 million price tag, which is a big sum for any club, let alone Arsenal, eyes are going to be on you. And unless you have a banger of a season, you're going to be deemed a failure. So that's where we are at.
Yeah, but he's definitely a good player. Mayer?
Unanimous keep.
Yeah. You like Martinelli, Stan, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at a team lineup before a game, the first thing I'm looking at is to see where we're going to get our goals from today. And if I see that Martinelli is in the lineup or even on the bench, it amazes me that for someone so young in the game, that I see that name and I'm like, okay, well, there's a goal there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's in the lineup, or
10 to 20% more confidence, right? When Martinelli leads the team.
yeah, and I mean, and it's the name of the game is goals. So, you know, I'd like to see him. For me, next season, the ideal thing would be to see him play some games up front, but mainly, I'd like to see that left-hand side, that no one to be brought in for that left-hand side, and we go through the season rotating Martinelli and Saka because they're both young, they can't play the whole season. We can keep them both fit and keep them rotating. I think that would pay dividends for Arsenal. The assists and the goals, I think it'd be, you know, a big goal for us.
And then Stan, then you sell Kolasinac and you get an actual left back to be there with Kieran Tierney, and I think from then on things could look deadly.
Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to address left back anymore. Not here. I think we already did with Kieran Tierney last season.
Sounds like we are though.
With who, Tony?
For PSG, whatever his name is.
Kurzawa.
I want no part of him.
I read that as well last week, that they said that a 5-year deal has been put in place, and that I mean, I don't know whether I believe any of these headlines right as of the pandemic. I was surprised that all of these transfers were even taking place, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just that they got to write these articles, but they're saying that a 5-year deal's on the table for that guy, and it doesn't. I'd rather keep Kolasinac than that guy.
Yeah. The next young player is Nketiah. I would keep Nketiah. I think he's done bits for us when he's had chances. He's scored a couple of goals and actually hit the post a couple of times in the last few games. Seems like a long time ago now. Tony, Nketiah.
Keep.
And Rohan.
Keep him, and that is considering if we can't keep, if we're going to sell Lacazette, you know, because this guy is Nketiah, I think, is somewhere in the middle between Lacazette and Oba. He doesn't have the hold-up play of Lacazette, and he doesn't have the finishing of Oba yet. But whenever he has been given a chance this season, which was when Lacazette had his terrible form, he's turned up with the goal. So you know, considering that, I'd keep him.
Am I here? Nketiah, keep. And
he's the one player in the squad that I have to say I honestly don't know. I'm undecided about Eddie Nketiah. There's a part of me that says that we should keep him. There's a part of me that says that he's never going to make it and be the #1 choice at Arsenal. I'm 50-50, so if I can't make a decision, I suppose we keep him, right? I can't still live.
If we sell one or two of our strikers, he will surely have a bigger part to play next season.
As a backup,
I don't want a situation where we end up like Chelsea, where we assume that, you know, he is our Tammy Abraham and he's going to take care of the season, because all of these youngsters, they fizzle out at some point, which is what happened with Tammy as well, and that's why we got into the mix, or anybody else got into the mix with Chelsea to get back. It's because the strikers weren't scoring goals, and that's what is going to happen with Nketiah if we depend on him so much. I think he's an okay #2. I don't know if he's ever going to make it big at Arsenal or any place like that, but for now, if he's an okay second choice for me to play cup games, Europa League group stage sort of thing.
What do you think?
Let me put it another way. I was a very big fan of Danny Welbeck. He warmed to me. You know, I wasn't a big fan of him when he was at United, and I wasn't over the moon when we signed him. But during his tenure at Arsenal, he won me over because he just looks like he wants to do well. However, at the bottom of my heart, I always knew that, if I want to see Arsenal in the Champions League final or competing for the Premier League, I think that deep down, I knew that we would have to do better than having Danny Welbeck as a backup striker.
Mm.
And I think that's probably how I feel about, if I'm going to be totally honest, of how I feel about Eddie Nketiah. Because there's nothing better than having a striker that comes up through the club and makes it into the first team, playing in that position. That's really what you want to see. But as I said about Danny Welbeck, I've kind of always secretly believed that if we wanted to get to where I wanted my team to get to, at some point we would have to do better than Danny Welbeck. And I think that's probably how I feel about Eddie, unfortunately.
Right. Hopefully Eddie's ceiling is a little bit higher. Okay, I don't even mention Aubameyang or Lacazette. Let's do Aubameyang, and I want to keep Aubameyang at all costs. So I would not sell him. I would keep him. Tony?
He's ready to turn 31, and I want to build my team around a 31-year-old striker, especially when you can cash him in for $60 million.
You wouldn't, or you would?
I would sell him.
You would sell him. Okay. He's 31. He's still got 2 or 3 years left. Rohan?
I mean, do I have to give my opinion on this one? Like, everybody knows, like, money is not an object. If we can make him sign a deal, and I'm not even saying that we have to go extraordinary with him. It can be the Mesut Ozil sort of money, maybe lesser. Give him more in terms of bonuses, goal scoring, getting into the Champions League, winning the Premier League sort of bonuses. And why not? Like, all the good strikers or the great strikers in Europe are on the wrong side of 30. Take Luis Suarez, take Lewandowski, take Aguero, take Cavani, take whoever. They're all at that age, and age is just a number. Ronaldo has shown that to us. Why should it mean that just because he's turning 31, he will magically lose all of his powers? There's no evidence for that. He's fit. He doesn't get injured that much. And with him, it guarantees goals. And if we want to get to where we want to be, we have to keep him.
Yeah. Mahir?
I would definitely want to keep Aubameyang and build on the quality in our team. So, like if, for instance, if you get somebody like the pool Aubameyang has also to other players, say for instance we get into the Champions League, they'll be like, oh snap, let me go to Arsenal, and like Aubameyang's almost got like a little bit of a superstar pool. Do you understand? Like players want to play with Aubameyang. They'll be like, oh wait, maybe if I move to Arsenal, I can help him rebuild, and somebody of quality comes, like Thomas Partey, and then Upamecano sees Thomas Partey and he joins as well. I mean, possibility.
Yeah, that's true. Stan, that can happen. That can happen. You bring a Dennis Bergkamp to Arsenal, and you start attracting players as well. Keep Aubameyang for you.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with what my man Rohan was saying down below there. And it's not like, this isn't like the old days, right? Where, like, in the 70s, the 80s, and even some of the 90s, where players would go in at half time and have a sausage sandwich. Back then it was like Logan's Run. A player reached 30, their career was over. You were dead. Do you know what I mean? That was it. 30 as a striker, you're gone. But the game's moved on, right? You've got, players are taking care of themselves a lot more. You saw that trend happen when Arsene Wenger came in with nutrition. And as Rohan said, some of the best strikers in Europe at the moment are the other side of 30. So for me, goals is the name of the game, right? And Aubameyang is right up there when it comes to scoring goals. So keep.
All right, I'm going to stay on you, Stan. All right, Tony, go.
Yeah, but if he isn't extended by June, why keep him if you're going to lose him for nothing?
I know, but this is our wish list.
I agree. If he doesn't want to stay, then we don't keep him and let him go for free. We have to get some money back because we're a self-sustaining club, right? So we have to get money back in order that we can invest it into the next guy.
Yeah, we hear what you're saying, Tony, but this is sort of our wish list, what we would do. All of those economic metrics are they're out the window. This is our wish list. We want to keep it on the edge. We'll leave the money man to make it happen, like you know. Stan, Lacazette, Alexander Lacazette, and like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's possible chance of Lacazette being used in a swap deal with Atletico Madrid for Thomas Partey.
Here's the thing, right, with Lacazette. Again, exactly what I said about Eddie Nketiah and Danny Welbeck. I feel the same. You know, I like Lacazette. I was glad when we bought him. I really like him. I like his character. But his numbers, you look at his numbers, right, each season, you know, Oliver Giroud's had better numbers than Lacazette in some seasons. And you look at the difference in what we paid for those players, there's a huge gap in the cost that we paid. And Lacazette struggles to meet Oliver Giroud's numbers. So purely on that basis, because I really like Lacazette, I think he's a good influence. There's something about him that I like. But based on the numbers, we can do better. So I'd get rid.
Yeah, for me, you know, if we had done more Lacazette first season,
Sorry, Ray?
got some feedback there. Maybe my ear. Somebody got their volume up. The feedback. If we would have Lacazette from a couple of seasons ago, I'd keep him. But this season's been pretty bad. And yeah, right now I would be in favor of doing that swap deal with Partey. Tony?
I would keep him. I like what he offers up front, holding the ball up and just his drive and passing.
Lacazette splits opinion, Rohan.
See, to win the Premier League, I would have had Aubameyang as my number 1 and Lacazette as my number 2. That is where we have to be. I don't think I feel confident with Aubameyang and Nketiah, but I feel a hell lot more confidence if I have Aubameyang and Lacazette. The point is that though that he needs to improve his numbers. This season has been disastrous for him, for whatever reason it might be, but it's been disastrous. I think that there is a player in there, you know, when he plays instinctively, some of his best goals have been when he's shot instinctively. But the issue has been that he's been devoid of confidence so badly that he always wanted to take a touch, and that used to ruin it for him this season.
He's playing deeper as well. He's playing more in midfield as well.
Correct. And all the qualities that Tony mentioned are qualities that I want in my midfield, not as my number 9, right? My number 9, the quality that I want the most is how many goals have you scored at the end of the season. And you know, I expect him to score at least you know, between 15 and 20 if he's my second striker. And my first striker needs to score around 25. And, you know, unfortunately, Lacazette is nowhere near that number. Like Stan said, you know, he's put up Giroud numbers. And I've said this before. If he did this, what he's done this season, in that Leicester season, what Giroud has done, you know, probably he would get a lot more stick. People like him still because this season we've been crap all over. But you know, I don't think that that we got anything out of him this season. But if we could play a 2 strike force or he becomes a deputy, then I would keep him. Otherwise,
yeah. Shout out to Michael. He's talking about Alba leaving, and it's going to hurt when that happens. And you know, it's something we haven't faced before. We've lost strikers. Sometimes we've replaced them adequately, and sometimes we haven't. You know, there's a YouTube video about, I think Stan shared me, with 24 strikers that we've had since Thierry Henry, and maybe 3 or 4 of them were adequate. You know, we've gone through 20, so we're not that great. But these things happen. We have players for a certain amount of time, and then they move on. And yeah, we all hope Alba signs that contract. Last one, not here. Alexander Lacazette.
Lacazette, no. I would swap him. I mean, I do love him as a player, although I just think his form's dipped significantly. It doesn't. Sometimes it seems. I don't know if it just seems to me, but it's like he doesn't want to actually be at Arsenal anymore. I don't know if you guys maybe feel the same way.
Yeah,
Well, his body language.
you're right. Stan's body language. He scored some goals and not had that much emotion. Um, was that during the Emery time, or he hasn't really scored under Arteta, right?
I think it was like a year or something that he hadn't scored away.
Yeah.
And for me, that's ridiculous when you actually need your strikers to be putting their blood, sweat, and tears, leave the field with blood in your boots, man.
You see, I don't understand out of order or anything, but my theory about Lacazette's body language, I don't think he's pissed off or anything. I just think it's because he's French. I don't understand out of order. And my two half brothers are French, right? So.
Yeah.
I think he wasn't happy playing under Unai Emery. I don't think he's actually scored. I think he scored that one goal, 2 goals against Newcastle to break his duck, right, under Arteta. And he showed emotion in the Newcastle game, scoring that goal that he hit off his left foot and into the net. But I want to give Stan a shout out here. See, Michael, Stan has been talking about Edward for a good 2 months now. We've been getting tired of him talking to us about this kid from Edward from Celtic. And now you hear in the last 2 weeks everyone's talking about this kid from Celtic. And I think Michael is from Glasgow and he would have known about Edward as well. But Stan has been going on about Edward as well. Looks
And it's not crystal ball stuff or anything like that. It's basically that the pub here in Vancouver where I go to watch the Arsenal games, we share it with the Celtic supporters. And a lot of times, especially when we were in the Europa League, we were in there at the same time. And it just seemed that every time Celtic were playing at the same time as us, the guy was scoring goals. And I was watching the kind of goals that he scored as well. And I've got to say that I'm very impressed with him. And speaking to some of these old boys, look, they're old boys that go to the Celtic game, right? These are old boys that have been around Celtic a long time. And they rate this kid, Edouard. They say that he's probably the best striker that they've had since Henrik Larsson. Henrik Larsson was, he was some player. And the guy that they just sold, was it to Lyon? Was it Dembele?
Dembele.
They really like Dembele as well, but this guy has taken the limelight. It's almost like they've forgotten about Dembele.
Wow.
They got this guy now. Yeah, this is the guy.
I mean, Henrik Larsson is high praise. We did mention this a few weeks ago when we were talking about Edward. But yeah, let's hope. Well, let's see what happens. He is a good option. I didn't think it would take 80 minutes to get to this section, but here we are. Getting through Arsenal's midfield is tough, Rohan.
Of course it is.
You look like you need a break. You need some counselling there after getting through the Arsenal midfield and strikers.
No, I'm prepping for the next section. That's what I'm doing.
Oh my god! All right, Michael says everything you just said there was absolute bang on, Stan. So big up your Glasgow Celtic knowledge, and growing up in Ireland, Celtic was always going to be my second team. So I'm Arsenal first, Celtic second. All right, Tony, you're going to kick us off with your all-time Premier League 11. And we can nuance this by I've given you 2 tasks to pick your Premier League 11 straight and then pick another team with nationalities that are all from different countries. And a further nuance, if you want to get involved in this, is to not pick an Arsenal player, right, Rohan?
Mm-hmm.
So, Tony, give us your goalkeeper, and if it differs from your nationality being different.
Schmeichel.
Your Premier League goalkeeper, Schmeichel. Any honourable mentions other than Schmeichel?
No.
He just about won every Premiership, right? In the first 6 or 7 or 8. Rohan, your goalkeeper in the Premier League.
Petr for me, the Chelsea Petr, not the Arsenal Petr. The Chelsea Petr.
Yeah,
His talent and his like the way he managed the game, and the saves that he pulled off often against us. The number of clean sheets that he had was just incredible. In fact, in terms of defense, that Chelsea in the mid 2000s to the end of the till about 2010 was the best defense that I think that we've seen. Other times there's been attack and defense, but they based their game around defense, and Petr was right there. So for me, he's played more games than Schmeichel. I don't know if he's won more titles than Schmeichel. I think he might have. No,
probably
if he's
not.
not,
Not the way Manchester United were racking up titles in the 90s.
Sure, but how many seasons and how many titles did Schmeichel win out of those? Maybe he was there for all of them. I'm not.
I can see Tony's going to check up on that already, but I'm going to say he might have won 6 or 7, whereas Czech probably won 4 or 5.
That's fine, but you also need to look at the fact that when Manchester United were winning in the first half of the 90s, then they didn't have any real competition. Maybe Arsenal was their competition, but Manchester United were by themselves. But in the mid 2000s, 2010, 5. Around that time, it was Manchester United, it was Arsenal, it was it was Chelsea, it was also the emergence of Manchester City, and in between all of that, Petr has won a lot. Yeah. His game to clean sheet ratio is absolutely insane.
Second to none, right? Even playing for Arsenal might have handicapped that a little bit. I'm going to go to myself next. I had 3 on the checklist. That's a pun I just tripped into, the checklist. So yeah, I did have Peter Cech as number 2 ultimately, or probably 3. I started thinking about Cech at Chelsea, but then I had to take into account Cech at Arsenal, and my bias sort of kicked in. But undeniably, Peter Schmeichel is probably the best goalkeeper. David Seaman gets a very, very good honourable mention. He was very, very good for many years. And I think Manchester United were cleaning up from, say, 92 to 97. They probably won quite a few titles. So I got Schmeichel. What have you got, Stan?
Yeah, I went for Peter Schmeichel as well. I just thought it was immense. And I give you a funny little stat here, which includes Peter Schmeichel. Since the last time Tottenham have won the league, Arsenal have won the league twice at White Hart Lane. Peter Schmeichel was born. He grew up. He won 5 league titles with Manchester United. He then had a son. His son grew up, and his son won a league title with Leicester. So all of that's happened since Tottenham. I saw that on Twitter, and it did make me chuckle. Yeah, I'd go for Peter Schmeichel.
Connor has happened since Tottenham won something.
Love that actually.
Right, my ear.
Yeah, I'm going with Peter Schmeichel. As much as I'd hate to admit it, Schmeichel. I mean, my dad was is a United supporter, and I always have banter with him. But when I was growing up as a youngster, not knowing exactly what football was, I actually followed individual players. Come to find out that Schmeichel was one of the greatest keepers of all time.
And Michael, thanks for your list. You got Van der Sar, Campbell, Rio, Ferdinand, Colin, Neville, Scholes, Vieira, Bergkamp, King, Kenny, Henry, and Ronaldo. Who's King Kenny?
Maybe Are they not? Is he not maybe referring to Kenny Dalglish?
Kenny Dalglish, yeah. But don't you know, football didn't exist before the Premier League. Right, Stan? There's no such thing as football before '92 or whatever the hell it happened.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Michael. You know that. Mahir, you're right back.
My right back.
Are you going from memory or do you have a list?
No, I'm trying to go from memory because I didn't make a list
You didn't do
exactly.
your homework.
No, I can give you guys an
You
example
get a
of
B minus.
the reason why. With me specifically, I didn't follow football till the early 2000s, maybe 2002, 2003. And then from there, I could only kick off with the knowledge that I had, like of players.
I just like to pick on you once in a while.
No,
B
it's fine.
minus.
It's banter. It's banter. Can I go with Ashley what's his name? Ashley Cole, if I'm not
Not the
mistaken.
right back, no.
Left back.
Oh, left back. You guys will have to
Well,
continue.
Mahir, we want the right back, not left back. Right in the right back.
Hey, you guys can continue.
Lee Dixon or Gary Neville?
Gary Neville.
Gary Neville. Okay, Rohan.
No,
We love you, Mahir.
so if we and this with the Petacek and Schmeichel debate as well. Schmeichel won 5 Premier League titles and Petacek had won 4. So you also have to take into account how much competition they have, and if we just continue with Premier League titles, then it's probably going to be dominated by Manchester United players. So that's where we're at. But for me, in the Premier League era, there've been few right backs that have been really good. One is Gary Neville, of course, but in the overall package, I didn't think that Gary Neville himself had, was exceptional. He was not world class in his place, but I think who contributed a lot was this guy who played out of position, and it was Ivanovic. For me, I feel that he used to play out of position and he used to score so many goals, important goals for Chelsea.
Rohan,
At right back.
I've got him in my all nationality 11. He's in there.
Yeah, so I think for me, the regular pick would be Gary Neville, but if it was my side, I'd go with Ivanovic. Just a beast.
Okay. Yep. Tony.
Neville for me.
Gary Neville. Yeah, like I said, I had a real tough time with my bias. Wanted Lee Dixon in there, and Gary Neville and Lee Dixon were very, very close. And you're not going to have a dynamic right back. You have a functional right back all the way up until modern day, where the fullbacks are a little bit more important now. But yeah, I went for Gary Neville, and my alternative was Ivanovic. Like you said, Stan.
You've got to remember that Gary Neville was the guy who got bullied by Vieira when Keane had to step in. So he didn't really have that character. As much as I like Gary Neville as a commentator, and I like how frank he is and all of that. But I don't think that he had the character as a player to be the leader, although he was captain of Manchester United for a number of years. But I think Ivanovic contributed in that sense a lot to the Chelsea team, who rose to the success and finally won the Champions League as well.
Yeah, generally, the fullbacks are a little bit smaller. So Patrick Vieira was picking a mismatch right there. And King Starshman had to step in, right, Stan?
Did Dan Petrescu play in the Premier League, or was he before the Premier League?
He played in the Premier League, yes.
I was a big fan of Dan Petrescu. I mean, it's hard for me to not say Gary Neville, because with Gary Neville, what you've got with him is the consistency.
Mm.
That's what he has on his side for me. He does have a lot of consistency and the longevity. But just for the flair of it, I'm going to go with Dan Petrescu. I was a big fan of him. And, he scores goals. good at set pieces, quite nippy. Big fan.
And did Mahir vote? Are you there, Mahir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you vote
What
already
did you
on
say
the
for the right hand side? I said Gary Neville.
Okay, you just like all right. So the vote is carried. It's going to make Gary Neville as right back. We have an all Manchester United team so far. Stan, your left back.
My left back would be Ashley Cole.
Yep.
You know, there was a time when he was being spoken of as, you know, not just one of the best players in England, but if not maybe the world, a successor to Roberto Carlos, Ashley Cole.
Yeah, I agree with that. Really, I looked at Dennis Irwin for consistency, and just to be thinking about an Irishman somewhere. But you know, Ashley Cole, even if he was a traitor, he was a good player, and I hate that he's been associated more with Chelsea now than he is with Arsenal because he did a lot of things. He played a lot of games with Arsenal. Tony
Cole for me.
and Rohan.
Ashley Cole, easy decision. What last player on his day, everything that Stan said is absolutely right. And yeah, Ashley Cole.
And he likes him. Was he the one that had an ice cream? Or no, that was someone else had an ice cream with Mourinho, right?
No, that was him.
Did he?
Was
That
it
was
him that had the ice cream? Okay.
Yeah.
Who was that, Lab? I digress. Here, your left back.
Ashley Cole.
Okay. And my alternative left back to try to switch it up nationwide was Fabiaro, the Nigerian left back. You know, but Ashley Cole makes it into the all-time 11. Let's go for your two center backs, Mahir.
Okay, I'm going with. This is looking terrible. I mean, you guys know Magana, but this team that I've actually concocted is a United side. Terry, John Terry from Chelsea and Rio Ferdinand from Panther FC.
Okay. Rohan.
I also had the same two actually. I mean, John Terry came through the ranks for Chelsea, and for me, it's seeming now like some Chelsea sort of team, like with Czech, Ivanovic, and now Terry. He'd like put his head in the way to win the game, and as much as you don't like him for his off-field exploits, but definitely on the field he was the leader for that team and the emergence of Chelsea. So yeah, him, and then Rio Ferdinand for the number of titles that he has, looks so comfortable. I don't know whether he would be as good if he didn't have a Vidic beside him. Who knows? But I'd also have to go with that. Of course, there are lots of honorable mentions there because Tony Adams also played there, through the Premier League era as well into this season, into this millennium, and then there was Sol Campbell, etc., etc. But for me, I think with the number of titles and the dominance that these guys have had, it's got to be Terry and Ferdinand.
We're going to make the top on the rest of us here because there's already 2 votes for both of those players. Going to be tough now, Tony. What have you got?
Adams and Terry.
Adams and Terry. Okay. Listen, I'm down with that because I actually mirror your choices. Tony Adams and John Terry. Like that probably choose in John Terry at this point in time. Yeah, John Terry, the catalyst for everything that happened at Chelsea. Very, very tight at the back. Along with Peter Cech, they were one of the meanest defenses in the early 2000s, right? When they came to prominence mid 2000s. Along with Robin and all those. Tony Adams reinvented himself several times. He had to be the captain for 3 different teams, won a Premier League on 3 different occasions, and was just all of the personal battles that he had to overcome too. So Tony Adams was immense, and the kind of player we talked about captains, and the kind of captain we really need now, character-wise, in an Arsenal team. So John Terry and Tony Adams for me, and Stan.
I've gone for Squadron Mustafi, and no, I'm joking. I've gone for Tony Adams and John Terry.
So you got me there. You got me scared there. Okay, Tony Adams and John Terry. So this is an Arsenal podcast, so it goes 2 votes for Tony Adams, 2 for Rio Ferdinand. So guess what's going to happen? We're going to put Tony Adams in there with John Terry.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Because you're not having Rio Ferdinand in there ahead of Tony Adams. Not going to happen, right? Get involved in the comments.
Not at all.
Not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to happen. Okay, Tony Adams and John Terry. My central defenders switching the nationalities up: Virgil van Dijk and Tony Adams. So I've used up an Englishman already in the back five here. All right, Stan, you like to go left wing next? Right wing. Okay, right wing. Stan, start us off.
David Beckham.
Okay.
That was David Beckham, isn't it? I mean, what more can you say, right? I mean, the guy's got.
He wears the mean sarong.
He's got a killer right foot. Do you know what I mean? Set pieces, crosses. It's got to be David Beckham on the right for me.
Okay. Yep. Not here.
Ronaldo.
Yep.
What can you say, man? I've got a friend, a good friend of mine who I haven't heard from since I was a kid, actually. My best friend. He's from Portugal, and I mean, represent that as well. I mean, what a player Ronaldo is still till today.
Yeah.
But hold on a minute. I've got Ronaldo for my left wing.
Well, you didn't
Am I
play
getting
him
them confused?
left. Are you trying to trigger? Are you trying to trigger Tony again?
I was just thinking, well, how can I get David Beckham and Ronaldo in? Because Ronaldo can play on the left. Can play on the left. But I've got a feeling everyone's gone for Ryan Giggs, isn't they, for the left? I know it. Everyone's going to say Ryan Giggs for the left. All right, sorry. Go on. Carry on.
Okay, mine here says Ronaldo, and the reason why I paused after you saying Beckham is because I had Ronaldo as well in my team on the right side of the stand. So 2 votes for Ronaldo up top and 1 for Beckham. Tony?
I'm about to pull a stand and put Giggs there. No, Ronaldo for me.
You're going to go for Ronaldo? Okay, 3-1. And Rohan?
I think it's Beckham for me, because I, looking at Ronaldo and how he has played through his career, arguably his best time has come after he went from United. He started tearing it up for United in the last season, couple of seasons that he was there. In fact, initially. He could be compared to what we're seeing with Pepe right now, right? Like, he was a bag of tricks, but there wasn't enough output initially when he had come into the Premier
League. Very good at falling over legs in the penalty box.
Exactly. So that was the issue. So for me, Ronaldo, as much as United fans even today, they think that he's still out only, and he's still a United player. I associate him more with Real Madrid, and that's why I think Beckham is a bigger shout there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what I say. we
voted
because Ronaldo's got 3 votes.
Yeah, 3 votes for Ronaldo and 1 or 2 for Beckham. Okay, Stan on the left wing.
Oh, Ronaldo.
Just wanted to hear it again. I went for Ryan Giggs on the left wing. As much as it pained me to do that. Tony,
Giggs.
Giggs. Okay. 2 Giggs, 1 Beckham on the left.
No, Ronaldo on the left.
Ronaldo on the left. Okay. Rohan.
See, I'm actually thinking because Giggs, although he has like 13 titles, so of course in terms of titles he has to be there.
Yeah.
But I read this piece, an unpopular opinion that Giggs wasn't really that great a player if you look at the stats just as how they are, because he had like 160 odd goals in like 700 odd appearances, which is a ratio which is not very good in terms of a goal scoring winner. In the season treble winning season, his contribution was not great. He had like 2 goals or 3 goals or something like that. So in a lot of seasons, his contribution hasn't been so great or immense for the overall United thing. It's again the consistency that we've seen, and that has led to, and coupled with the fact that Manchester United themselves won so many titles, it's been right up there. But probably I'm trying to think of someone else, because Ronaldo, again, I've said about him. For me, he is the legend. He's the legend out there. Maybe Perez, yeah, maybe Perez. Perez has probably done more than Giggs in that much time. Unpopular opinion maybe, but yeah, I think I might even go for Perez there.
Can I just say, see, when I was coming up with my team, and I was looking at the players that I knew I wanted to get in, I wanted to get Beckham in there, and obviously I want to get Ronaldo in there, but I don't understand all you Giggsites, you Giggsy people. No one's mentioning what you're saying that Giggs gets into your all-time 11 ahead of Ronaldo, and if Ronaldo's on the right, he's going to get in ahead of Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I'm not even looking at Gareth Bale because he's a Tottenham player.
Yeah, but you could say Real Madrid though, right? Where he's caused a lot of his danger. But I know that he used to play for that lot. But I mean, he has to be up there, right? Surely, Gareth Bale has to be up there.
Yeah,
Gareth Bale on the right side, right, cutting in and scoring from his from his left foot, and definitely has to be up there.
I don't have any Tottenham player on this list, even as dishonorable mentions. Hard enough to put United players up there, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes, I hear Gareth Bale. Yes, I hear what you're saying. Well, I've got Giggs on the left and Ronaldo on the right, and Beckham was an also ran for me. Sorry, Stan. I can't do it. I told you I could not be unbiased.
All right, carry on.
We always have controversy on the wings.
You drive a hard bargain. You drive a hard bargain.
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't cause a problem on the last podcast on the wings. It was somebody else.
It's always the wings that give us the aggro.
Yeah. All right. Rohan. 2 central midfielders.
For me, Vieira and Lampard. One destroyer, leader in midfield, and the other one the highest goal scoring midfielder. Won the Premier League a bunch of times. Of course, there are honorable mentions of Gerrard, of Scholes, Roy Keane even. In terms of ability and output, for me, it's Vieira and Lampard.
Vieira and Lampard. Not here.
Vieira, Lampard. Another vote.
You're doing a lot of what he said.
You can't argue when it gives you an analysis that you completely agree with. It was about to come out of your mouth. It's Inception, basically.
I'm not a school teacher by profession, but it seems like you're plagiarizing off of that book.
What you want me to start? You want me to talk about Gerard and Scholes?
Yeah.
It pains me to talk about great players
Can
because
you?
they're from rival. Because they're from rival. I wish, we did have those type of players. Like I'm saying, honorable mentions go to Vieira, players like our own Vieira. But I mean, you could say Scholes. You could say there's a lot of other players, Gerard,
You got
etc.
Vieira,
Maybe.
Vieira Lampard also, right?
Mm.
Okay. Dan?
Well, Patrick Vieira was the shoe-in for me as one of them, but the other spot is really difficult.
Yeah.
And Rowan has a really good shout there with Frank Lampard, because if you're thinking about goals, then the output from Frank Lampard is massive. But I'm a big Steven Gerrard fan as well. I always had a soft spot for Steven Gerrard. I just like the way that he played. He could play him as a defensive midfielder. You could play him as an 8. You could play him as a 10 as well. It's such variety in his game.
Does it matter for you, Stan, that he never won the Premier League?
Well, that's because he didn't want to go to another team, right? He didn't want to go to another team. But then again, the other one in there that I like is Scholes as well. I love Scholes as a player, a very good player. And to pick one is so difficult.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, on my piece of paper, I've got 3 names next to Vieira. I've got like 15 players in my team, because I can't. It's really hard to pick that second spot. I had Gerrard and I scribbled him out and I put Scholes. Then I scribbled that out and I had Lampard. Then I went back to Gerrard. So, I mean, I have to put my pin in one.
Yeah, you do.
I'm going to have to go for Lampard purely for the numbers, right? The goals, the numbers.
Yeah, with Gerrard, if I was asked whom I like the most out of all 3 as a player, I like Gerrard the most. But he hasn't won the Premier League. That has to be taken into account if you're making an all-time 11. He came really close, and then there was a massive moment that he let it slip. Literally. So, and
you can say that about someone like, for example, Matt Letizia. Great player, fantastic player, but he just didn't want to leave Southampton, and Southampton were not going to win anything, right? But he was, great player for me.
Exactly, and that's why maybe he's not in our 11, all-time 11. And
we're talking about
that's
Steven Gerrard. I have an apt joke for you. What ship has never sailed up the Mersey? What ship has never sailed up the River Mersey? The Premiership.
Good one.
Oh man, yeah.
That's a good one.
And with Scholes just didn't have the output. Of course, his passing range was exceptional.
Yeah.
And we've all heard that story of coming in like early in the morning and hitting a tree like 50 yards away, and then somebody else tried to do it and pulled his groin or something. So, great player, but didn't have output in terms of goals or assists. So if you want to win a game, you've got to have Lampard in there.
Okay.
Let me just ask a question. Would you play Letizia as a striker or an attacking midfielder?
I would go as an attacking midfielder, because I think there are other better strikers, out and out strikers, number 9s in the Premier League than him, in my opinion.
Okay, then I've made my choice now. I'm going for Matt Letizia next to Patrick Vieira.
There's always something different on this podcast, so that's a good thing as well, though, right?
I didn't even have him written down until I started talking about him. I'm like, the more I'm talking about him, the more I want him in my team. So
There you go. Those days are over. The loyalty days where you have a player that's synonymous with a club, no matter what Steven Gerrard, Giggs, CCA, all of those kind of players. For me, I went for Patrick Vieira, who's a shoe-in at this point into our all-time Premier League 11, and I went with Roy Keane. You know, he's dead. He is an immense player, Roy Keane. He had the heart, and that's something that can't be quantified. To have heart and want to win, and I just wish that Vieira would have convinced Keane to come to London, because I know they were trying to get each other to go to their team. You know, Roy Keane, for me, I know he's not going to make it now because of Lampard. Tony.
I had a 4-1-2-3. I had Vieira, Scholes, and Gerrard.
Vieira, Scholes, and Gerrard. Okay. So Vieira is a shoe-in for all of us. It's going to be Vieira and Lampard in midfield. Honorable mentions: Paul Scholes scored a lot of goals, and Steven Gerrard. The kind of midfield.
Yeah, honorable mention also to I think honorable mention also to David Silva. What a player! Attacking midfielder. If we're talking attacking midfielder wise, he is what we expect Mesut Ozil to be.
How many premierships has he won, though? I mean, it's been a short.
He's won three.
Okay, that's not a bad haul to be considered.
Exactly.
And in fact, as well, I don't know how he slipped out of my mind, because for some reason I'm thinking of old players, right? Until Rohan said David Silva, a light bulb literally went off above my head, and that's Kevin De Bruyne.
Exactly.
Yep.
So now that I think about it, I'd have him in there next to Vieira, Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's the best midfielder.
What a lethal player!
I think we have doing this over the last few weeks. We've unearthed a few things. Like, we have maybe underappreciated what Alexis Sanchez did for us in more recent times. Probably arguably one of the better players that's come to the Emirates since we've last won the Premiership. Along with maybe Santi Zola. And Aubameyang, of course, he's on pace to actually beat what Thierry Henry's been doing. Purely on goals in of itself. But let's get into the strikers now. We got two forwards. Mahir, you want to go first?
My two forwards are two of the all-time leading goal scorers ever in the Premier League, and that is the legends. That is one of our own, King Henry and Alan Shearer.
Yeah. You really can't argue with that. There's nothing really to be said, Rohan?
So I think, Shearer and Henry are great picks, but from the players that I have seen more and I absolutely love and would want my team to have, I think I would pick, an Henry and an Aguero.
Okay. I thought you were going to say
Aguero is now the highest scoring foreign player in the Premier League. Won it at the 93rd minute, so he can score it at that moment. He's had his injury issues, but his goal scoring record is absolutely immense, and I think that's.
I will go next because you did mention Aguero, and that's my international. Aguero paired with Henry as the forwards is the international one. But for me, the all-time Premier League 11 is my bias kicked in. It's you can't have one without the other. It's like salt and pepper. It's like fish and chips. It's like salt and vinegar. You gotta have Henry and
Me and Hopes
together. It's like Tony and Hope.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Laurel and Hardy. You gotta have Henry and Bergkamp together.
Tom and Jerry.
Bergkamp, arguably, probably the best player we've seen at Arsenal. It's really tough to quantify whether Henry's better than Bergkamp or the other way around. They had everything. Tony?
like I said, I had just a solo striker, but Henri and Bergkamp, but they're going with two.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll put the lineup in the comment section a little bit later, Tony. Stan.
It's a hard one. It's like the midfield because obviously I want Henri in there, and it was like, who do you pick for that space next to him?
Yep.
And there were so many. I mean, originally on my bit of paper, I just write down Bergkamp, but I'm like, because I can never split those two. But there's some good other ones I came up with, like Van Nistelrooy. I was kicking him around for a little while. Robbie Fowler is another one that I really used to like, you know. Andy Cole, Dwight York. You know, there were some names that I really like, but
Ian Wright.
I'm going to go Ian Wright, but I'm going to go with exactly what Ryan said. I think it's got to be Aguero next to Henri. But
The thing with Bergkamp is Bergkamp, absolutely love him to bits, but he scored 87 goals for Arsenal, right? Like we are comparing him with people who have scored, you know, close to or over 200 goals. You know, you also have Wayne Rooney who scored those many goals. You know, so you know, if there's a difference of 100 goals, Didier Drogba, who's just scored over 100, I think, you know, then it's a little difficult to make a case for Bergkamp. We know how good he was, but overall in the Premier League, there've been like so many. And for me, like Aguero and Henri, like they're they're a joy to watch. They aren't just poachers, right? They're joy. You get happiness by seeing them.
You would think as well, Rohan, that they would be able to play together. They would complement each other.
Exactly.
Henri would assist a lot of those goals for Aguero to finish. You know. So are we saying I wasn't really keeping count? I know Henri gets in, but does Aguero make it? Who did you?
I went for Aguero.
You went for Aguero, and Rohan went for Aguero as well. Meyer went for Shearer. Who did you go for, Tony?
Bergkamp and Henri.
All right, Bergkamp and Henri. So there's two Bergkamps.
Have we changed? Has anyone changed their minds?
Yeah, you know what? I'm willing to say purely on the goal output that Aguero could and should make it, but that's making me stack him up against Bergkamp, which is difficult for me. So
that's exactly what I had to do. Exactly what I had to do. It's hard to leave him out.
Hard to leave Dennis Bergkamp out because he is so hard himself, you know. But we'll leave it there. Let everyone think. Let everyone think about it and let us know in the comments who your strikers would be, who your midfielders would be. And I went for Keane and Fernandinho in midfield just to switch up the nationalities. But yeah, we should leave it there. It's 2 hours plus, right, Tony?
Yep, 2 hours and 2 minutes. 3 minutes.
2 hours of what's going on, and hopefully making us all forget about what's going on in the outside world. You know. So hope everyone enjoyed it. Tony, final words.
No.
Okay, that's one word. Rohan, final word.
Everybody stay safe, you know, and there's protests happening in the United States here. Actually, people are going out and they don't want to stay in, so they're protesting their right to go out, which is, you know, in my opinion, it's just silly considering that there's 36,000 deaths here. So yeah, I mean, be sensible and you know, do your thing. Don't endanger anyone, and let us know what your all-time 11 is.
I'll piggyback off of you, Rohan, and when it's getting to the point where I'm knowing people who have loved ones, not directly to me now, but people who I know are losing people out there, and that's when it's serious, and you start hearing about people, and you know, everyone stay safe out there. Like we said before, I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. You all have freedom to do whatever you want to do, but at least stay think about what you're doing and how you're impacting other people. And you have to do what's right for you. Stan?
Well, I've just been told that my kebab's getting cold, so I'm going to be going for some brunch.
I'm going to get that
Go
one.
for it, Stan.
Save me some of that kebab, homie. Save me
I'm
some of
looking
that
at you, Tony.
Get that while it's warm, Stan. I'm going to move on to Matt here before I say too much.
Now, much love to everybody. Rohan, Tony, Stan, our host. Our host. Thanks, guys. You guys have made me forget. I hope you guys have also taken from this a little bit of ease off the heart. You know, a lot of tough times still ahead. But yeah, much love to everybody and their families.
Much love to everyone. We did not do a quiz this week because it caused so much problems last week. I'm going to come up with a new
Yeah, I
quiz.
wonder why.
New quiz, new format.
Cheater.
You all, apart from Mahir and myself, who's the quiz master, everyone's won one round, so it's okay. Tony.
I won too.
Officially. Listen, it's 2 hours and 5 minutes now. Stan's got to go. We've all got to go. And
Kebab time.
hope you enjoyed it. Come on, you Gunners. Be safe out there. Until next time, take care. Up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.